This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Well, getting close to the end of the series, The Mission of God for the Family. Uh, we'll see. Sometimes, things come up and I think of new stuff that we haven't covered. But I've been, uh, what I want to spend a little bit of time talking about is parenting teenagers. Um, and today I want to talk a little bit about parenting teenagers through puberty and how to think about that as a parent. Um, when we had little kids, we had four little kids under the age of 10 at one point, and we would go out someplace, go to Costco or something, and we were living in California, so people would come up and they would make uh, what they thought to be maybe witty remarks or something, but it was always um, man, you've got too many of those, and we were hoping to be able to have more, and God gave us four. We were really grateful. And, but one of the things that we would hear a lot is, well, I know you're having fun now, but just wait till you have teenagers. And then you're going to really get it. The teenagers are impossible. But what we learned is the folks that enjoyed the teenage years also enjoyed their kids when they were little, right? So the thing that shifted and changed wasn't the joy; it was that you could no longer just pick your kid up and move them and make them do what you want, right? So the parents that didn't enjoy their kids, but they thought, well, at least I can just pick them up and move them. They were annoyed a lot or embarrassed a lot, right? That often when their kids hit their teen years and they couldn't just pick them up and move them, they hadn't ever won their hearts over, and so they were in this odd spot of uh, now having somebody that they didn't really enjoy that much, but they couldn't make them when they weren't enjoying them, they couldn't make them shift and change. And the reality is, teenagers, they need you need they start needing to be shown respect, right? They start needing to be respected, but they're also still often making the same mistakes and errors that they made as 3 year olds, right? Because they're in their teen years, they're sort of a child and an adult in the same space, in the same body at the same time. And so they need the respect of an adult and the grace of a 3 year old, right, all at once. And so the challenges that come with teenagers is that in the morning they might be acting like a mature adult, and then in the afternoon they act like a 3 year old, and then they're sort of all over the map because their world sort of suddenly expands, but they're still the same size, and so the world feels huge and enormous to teenagers, and their problems, when they have a problem that is big, it feels big to them. It feels big because their world, as in, it's much bigger than it was to their previous world, but their world is still small compared to an adult's world. So teenage size problems feel like they fill the whole world because it fills the whole world of the teenager. And so you have all sorts of opportunities to disciple and help, but it takes a lot of grace and patience, just like it does with a 3 year old. And but the illusion that because they're so much larger, that they're going to be so much more mature, sometimes gets parents uh, gets parents uh, um, frustrated, or because they think you're so much bigger, you should be so much more mature. But so in from the parental attitude side, going into it knowing that it's going to just take an enormous amount of grace and patience and talking through things, and the correction still happens, but the what sometimes happens is the teaching and the training stop, and becomes just correction. So those times when things are going well and you're not having to correct them, we don't use them to continue to teach and train the way when they're very small. We think what are the things they're going to run into. We're going to a restaurant tonight. Let's talk through and teach and train our 4-year-old on how to work to go into a restaurant, because we know we control their whole life. Well, as they get bigger, we don't, but we still need to be in that teach and train mode. Otherwise, the relationship just becomes all correction. And if you have teenagers and that's where it is, it's a good idea to sit them down and just say, we've developed this rivalrous relationship and I don't want it anymore. And as the parent, it's my responsibility to avoid getting into this rivalry. So please forgive me. I allowed this rivalry to grow. Um, and and often, maybe not right in the moment, they might not buy it. But if you shift your attitude and you grow, then it makes it possible. I know when I was a teenager, you sort of think your parents are locked in at there, right? That's where they are, and they're not growing anymore. And sometimes it's because it's true, right? Our parents sort of paused their growth in the Lord. Well, but we don't want, if we consistently are confessing our sins and committed to growing, and we are growing in the Lord, then actually is good for our kids, because our kids will see the growth, and that's good. So you could even say, you're the first teenager I've ever raised, and this is hard. I don't know what I'm doing, and you obviously can see that, because they can. And being willing to be humble and gracious with them, and taking responsibility for as the parent, as the parent that's supposed to have more knowledge and self-control and experience, right, further along in the fruits of the Spirit, it's going to be really an important thing if you're no matter what, but especially if you're trying to restore a relationship with your teens. But the teach, train, and correct, enforce, reinforce cycle should always be going on when you're still in that parental authority role, because you're not going to be in it forever. They're going to shift out of being under your authority soon. I mean, it doesn't feel soon, but it is going to be soon. And so you want to do as much teaching and training as you can. And one of the particularly daunting tasks is guiding your teenagers through puberty. And there's what we tend to do is we grab onto one verse or two verses and just hold on to them, and don't awaken love before it's time, right? Something like that. And we just say, that is my goal, is to not let my kids have a first, have a crush, or to tamp it down. Or we know, because that they hit puberty and they're trying to learn what to do with this sudden rush of hormones. We spend our time tamping it down, or telling them, hey, this isn't real, right? What you're going through isn't real, because someday your world is going to be much bigger, and it feels like this is filling your whole world, but this is only a small part of your world. And what isn't helpful about those things is, or what isn't helpful about that attitude, is that the puberty was God's idea. Right, there's a purpose to it. There's a real awakening to a particular kind of beauty in the world that is new to them. And as parents, there's a couple of things that get in the way. Sometimes it's our own sexual history, our own shame, or shame that we learned from our parents about about the way the world works, or about our own sin, our own past, or sometimes we're carrying the shame of our parents or grandparents' past. We don't even recognize it because whether you did or didn't fall into sexual sin growing up, the shame that can surround it is easy to pass on from generation to generation. And if if you have sexual shame in your past that you haven't dealt with, you will pass it on. And so we want to, the first thing to do is take it to the cross and remember that Christ died for you, right? Your sin is forgiven. It's not there. It doesn't control you anymore. And Christ died on the cross for you naked because he was wearing your shame. And so that shame is gone. There is no shame between you and God anymore. Everything has been revealed and the guilt has been dealt with. It's gone. And when Jesus was raised from the dead, he came out fully clothed, a white robe, because the shame was gone. It's gone, and now we spiritually wear that white robe. We are covered, and there's no more shame. And so when we deal with it before the Lord, and it's easy because if you've fallen into sexual sin, it's easy when something goes wrong for the loop in your head to become, this is because of the errors I made as a teenager or in my early 20s, right? This is because of the sins I committed. I'm still under a curse because of that. But it's just not true. Those are lies. Those are demonic lies that are trying to control trying to control you and keep you from living in freedom and trying to keep you from passing that freedom on to your kids. So that's the beginning of walking your kids through puberty. And then the second part is that awakening to a new form of beauty is has a spiritual dimension, right? God is sending an invitation to ultimate pleasure and joy and beauty in the resurrection at the end of time, right? He's opening up your child's eyes to the beauty of the opposite sex, right? Girls start to think boys are wonderful and attractive, and they want to be noticed by one. Boys start to think girls are wonderful and attractive and want to be noticed by one, and that's a good thing. And that first crush is you don't want to make fun of your kids for it or mock it or anything like that, or tamp it down and say, no, don't have those feelings, right? You want to lift your eyes through that noticing of beauty to Jesus, right? Say, isn't it amazing that God made us to desire one another? That's really good. And then help them learn how to deal with it appropriately, right? Learn how to say, well, what does it take to become the kind of person that can bring one of those home or go home with one of those, right? How can you grow, become a better Christian, become a better, aim towards adulthood so that you're ready for marriage? What does it look like to have the kind of self-control and guarding of your own heart that says there's good and appropriate time to act on this feeling, and there's a time when you don't how would you put it? How do you help that become motivation towards growth, motivation towards becoming a responsible adult, motivation towards becoming the kind of person that is marriageable and attracts the right kind of person to marry, right? Those are the kinds of conversations that you can open up, because and this is something that you do see it throughout. There's a messed up view of sexuality that is a strain through Christianity that comes through to us either from the Stoics or from the Greek hedonism. That when people were converted out of it, they rejected they rejected beauty and pleasure as all lies because they had been tricked into chains by it. Well, it was a good way to put it. But there's another um, there's another way that's or there's another strain within Christianity that says, well, when you notice beauty, right, all of that beauty is a reflection of or is downstream from the beauty of God, our creator, right? It was God's idea to make women curvy and beautiful and attractive. It was God's idea to make a strong man attractive to a young woman, right? Those are good things, and we just need to learn to help our children, help our teenagers put it into the right context, right? Um, and and so having having those, sometimes they're conversations, sometimes it's just your kids going, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing talking about my crush with my parents. But there's a reason songs like Justin Bieber's Baby 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 are it is when that song comes on, everybody wants to sing along because that first crush feeling is a familiar feeling. Right now, um so you the worst thing that you can do is convince your kids that that's something that they have to um that they have to be embarrassed of, right? The When really it's an opportunity to teach and train your kids. Um, you don't want them learning, oh, this is the thing I have to hide from my parents, right? You want yeah, because it's not long before you aren't an authority in their life, and you want to be um, a an advisor, right? You want to shift as they move to an adult. You want to shift from an authority in their life to an advisor in their life. And if you and that's the if you remember that long-term goal in the middle of their teen years, and begin acting as advisor, then you're more likely to shift to that role as they grow and grow up. So we'll talk tomorrow about the how to deal specifically with what comes up in puberty, and how to shift it and where to go for some resources. But your attitude as a parent needs to be always aiming at that long-term advisor role and thinking long term, and that way it doesn't because you're going to be tempted to get into rivalrous relationship in those teen years, but it's the parents' responsibility to refuse to enter into the rivalry, right? It's the parents' responsibility to refuse to enter into the rivalry with their teens, and be the adult in the scenario. So, all right, have a good day.